cash. I got a show today. It's all I'm trying to do. Hustle and motivate. Choppers a throwaway. Hustle the overweight. That's why they follow me, huh? They think I know the way. Cause I took control of things.
All right, welcome to Hustle Codes Podcast. We provide a platform for successful entrepreneurs to tell their inspiring stories, as well as reveal to us certain codes on how they made it to the top. I'm your host, Provide, and it's time to hustle. So before we introduce our special guest today, you can visit us at islandavla.com, use the promo code HC15 and receive 15% off your entire purchase. We just released our February collection called Royal Elite, our collab with Champion, as well as our Hustle Codes merch, so make sure you tap in and purchase that. So without further ado, I'd like to introduce a special, very, very special guest. He is a leader within the restaurant space. Some of his restaurant assets are Boomtown Brewery, Stout Burgers, of which we're going live right now in Santa Monica, as well as, there we go, Joe's Coffee. He serves on the board. He's actually an attorney by trade. He serves on the board of Loyola Law, one of the founding members of Forbes LA Business Council. And I think a great title that he probably should be proud of is he is a former LA nightlife connoisseur. Okay,
I'll take that.
Yeah. So if you partied with us in the early 2000s and things got kind of out of hand, well, blame it on Charlie because he led us in the nightclubs.
That's true.
Okay.
A lot of wild turns.
So
allegedly.
Yeah, allegedly. So without further ado, I'm honored to call him a family friend, the man, the myth, the legend, Mr. Charlie Lew.
Thank you.
Yes.
Love my island.
Oh yeah. So without further ado, again, Charlie Lew, great family friend of ours. Here's a little gift on behalf of the Hustle Code team. A little workout tank right there.
I just won't fill it out anymore. I used to fill these out.
Yeah, exactly.
No more. All right.
So Charlie, it's an honor again to be at one of your restaurants here in the great Santa Monica, right here by the 3rd Street Promenade. We like to go kind of back to where everything started, right? Where did you grow up at? What was life like? What was, music like? What was your influences earlier on that kind of helped you gradually make it to LA?
Sure. So I grew up in Scotland. So the first thing I always tell everybody about Scotland is it's cold. It's like damn cold, right? It's not cold like in LA. Last night was 55 and everybody was running.
Yeah, just bundled up.
Yeah, I mean, if it gets to 55 in Scotland, everybody's in the ocean, like swimming. So that's cold, right? So I grew up there. I moved to the US when I was 13. Growing up in Scotland it's an incredible experience. I mean, I wouldn't change it for anything.
What part of Scotland?
Glasgow. Yeah, about 40 miles from Glasgow. West Coast, very simple life, no car, no little tiny TV this big with 3 channels.
Wow.
Like I remember when we got our 4th channel, and it was a big deal because that we increased by 33%, so that was super exciting. Very simplistic, man. A lot of reading, a lot of chess, a lot of family discussions, a lot of family knit gatherings and extended family, and truly one of those examples of a village raising a child. All the doors were open, all of the doors were unlocked, people came over, people stayed over, people went house to house. So it was a great way to grow up, and I think it prepared me for a lot of things. It prepared me from a familial perspective, it prepared me for business, from trust and relationships and communication, because even as a young child, even as a 5, 6, 7-year-old kid, I was having kind of adult-oriented conversations because it's such a social network. The entire country is very social, especially throw a pint or two in his mouth, and we all get super social. But it's a social way to grow up, and again, it's not like Santa Monica or LA where you can be outside 9 months out of the year, 10 months. Actually, you'll be outside 12 months out of the year, but you're comfortable 11. In Scotland, you might be outside 3 months out of the year. So the other 9 months, you're sitting with family playing chess, talking about ideas, politics, religion, entertainment, history, literature, whatever it is. So very cool way to grow up. Moved to Florida when I was 13. That was a total culture shock, obviously. I actually moved to New York first, which was really bizarre because the biggest building I saw in Scotland, other than the castles, was like 6 stories. So you flying into New York, and you start seeing stuff.
What brought you guys actually to New York? Was it parents had a family?
Yeah, family stuff. Moms decided that we should come back here because we were actually born here and moved to Scotland we were very, very young. So we flew back and you know, came back to this country, which, you know, I'm so grateful for and blessed to be here because this truly is a land opportunity in every sense. So,
I got to ask you this before we leave Scotland. You mentioned a very, very detailed point of growing up playing chess.
Yeah.
Now, learning chess for the first time, playing it, the mentality that you got to have while playing chess, how did that help you kind of navigate through life? Did you start to see like similarities as you was going through your journey, like, hey, this dude is a pawn and this person, right? So tell me how that type of critical thinking helped you along your journey, whether it be in life or in business.
Yeah, so it's interesting. So obviously growing up playing chess, I viewed it as a game. Subsequently, as an adult, you realize that there's so many correlations between chess and life, especially business and chess. So you see that, you know, certain people are pawns, right? And you always hear that. People say, oh, he's a pawn, she's a pawn. But there's actually a lot to that because not only pawns are very one-dimensional, right? So you've got 8 rows. And those 8 rows, the pawns move forward. And the pawns can't look next to them. They can't look behind them. The only thing they can do is march forward or attack diagonally, right? So it's a very interesting thing when people say someone's a pawn, because it means more than just what we immediately think, which is the smallest, weakest person on the board. It also means someone with no peripheral vision and someone without the ability to look outside of directly in front of them. But what's really interesting is what happens to a pawn if it advances to the end of the game of the board. What happens? It turns into a queen. It turns into the most powerful piece of the board. So I think there's a lot to that. So I think we're all pawns at one point, all of us, right? Now, whether or not we advance to that end stage to be a queen depends on how well we're protected as we move forward. Whether, you know, a pawn can be very powerful in a chessboard because it occupies a space, but it also protects diagonally at both spots. And a pawn can also lend a lot of protection to a fellow pawn, so if you have a diagonal of pawns, it basically creates like this impenetrable wall. So there's a lot more to chess, but it also teaches you about movement. It teaches you to always think not 2, 3, but sometimes 4 or 5 steps ahead. One of my very good friends describes it, and I've kind of thought about it and evolved this description. But if you think about the king and a pawn in a game of chess, the king doesn't move, right? If the king moves in the beginning of a game of chess, other than the first defensive formation, you've screwed up. The king shouldn't be moving. The king shouldn't be expending energy. The king shouldn't be trying to run all over the board because he's very limited in what he could do. But if the king is dictating the moves of the other pieces right, then you win, right? So there's a lot of lessons in chess. We could talk about chess all day.
I could tell you very fast, but I had to actually bring that up because I could see how that type of thinking contributed to your success along your journey of being able to stay a couple of steps ahead.
For sure.
Right. So, okay, so now we get to New York.
So we get to New York.
Go back to New York. Yeah. Obviously, you know, I'm in the second cultural shock. Where did you guys stay at? What was life like? Was it the 90s, hip hop? Yeah, what was it? Yeah.
It was 88.
Okay.
And we moved to New York City very briefly. Then we went to an area of upstate New York called Stony Point, which was beautiful. Stayed with my aunt, my uncle, and my family there. And had a summer and a half or a summer and a semester. And loved it because it was an experience of the United States, but it was with family. So it was very cool, and then we moved from there to Florida, Central Florida, the Daytona Beach area, that was crazy. Yeah. We moved to Daytona Beach during the height of spring break and the height of Daytona Beach craziness. You know, with bike week and spring break and black spring break and race week and turkey rod run. So every other month you'd have this group of people coming into Daytona, and it was madness. It was, I mean, imagine, you know, all these bikers coming in. So you go from this fairly sleepy little town to literally tens of thousands of Harleys, and all the Harley guys, and the ladies, and the tattoos, and the motorcycles, and everything gets crazy and loud. So, race week, and Turkey Rod Run, and spring break. So it was cool, man. It was a cool place to grow up. Beautiful weather. Went to high school there. Finished high school and went to Florida State.
Okay.
Because in Florida, you kind of either go to Florida or Florida State. I mean, you could go to Miami. A lot of great people went there, but I was kind of always, I'm either going to Florida or Florida State.
So you're Seminole.
Seminole, yeah. Seminole. So went to Florida State. Super.
How was that experience?
It was an incredible experience. It was a great school, Tallahassee, but it kind of encompasses the whole city. It's the capital of Florida, but if you took the college out, the university out, it's still a capital city, but you wouldn't be rushing there and experiencing.
So it's a true college town. That's like the only
true college town. Yeah.
Only show in town, so to speak.
Exactly. So 3 awesome years there. Graduated a year early, which in retrospect you look back and you think, damn, those were truly the best years of your life, right? Or maybe not the best years of your life, but they were truly the most enjoyable years of your life with the lack of any real responsibility, right? Because your responsibility as a college kid is to figure out how to get out of bed and figure out how to not fail.
Yeah, exactly.
That's all you gotta do. The gym 2 hours a day, you spend 4 hours a day at buffets.
Yeah, exactly.
It was the least stressful, most enjoyable period of life.
Ever go down to Miami when you were there?
I did. I went down to Miami. I actually spent half a summer there doing security at one of the nightclubs, and had a lot of fun experiences in South Beach that I won't forget.
Yeah.
So, definitely really enriching, and also the Latino culture down there, the Cuban culture down there was so phenomenal, and the food was phenomenal, and it was very cool because I think it gave you at least a taste of another culture. Yes. Right? So a taste of another cuisine, a taste of another type of music, enriching because of the people and the guys and the girls and the dancing and everything. So I think it's another one of those opportunities where people say it's truly incumbent on you to travel to be enriched. Right? So when you're in college and you don't have the money to travel, you go to this city that has the most enriched population of other countries. Absolutely. So that was Miami for us, which was super cool.
And so after FSU, you decide, okay, well, I want to go on to become an attorney. What sparked that interest? Was this something that happened, going through college and saying, again, going back to, having those chess moves and say, all right, well, this thing is about to end soon and I got to figure out a plan and, I got a career and I think I did okay in these classes and I could see myself being an attorney. What sparked that interest?
Absolutely not. There was no.
Again,
I was doing a public speaking engagement just a couple weeks ago, and I said I wish I could say that things were more strategic, but they weren't. They were certainly more haphazard, and it was a situation where I sat and said, am I going to go to med school or law school? Realized I didn't want to go to med school, so the alternative was law school, and got accepted to quite a few schools, but spoke with my father, who said, if you come out to Los Angeles, you can stay in Long Beach with me. And checked out Loyola, which thankfully I did, and thought great school in the heart of downtown LA.
Beautiful campus. Beautiful campus.
And like this very forward-thinking school with an incredible night program, and just a lot of things that you looked at and thought, this is going to be a cool school to be in. Didn't come and check it out, didn't do anything. Took my pickup truck, loaded everything in my pickup truck, started school on the Monday. I started driving out here the Tuesday before. I got here on Saturday, got to my dad's crib, unpacked all my stuff and started school on Monday. So I didn't know where I was going, I didn't know anything about LA traffic, I didn't know anything about LA drivers. Didn't know anything about LA costs. Came out with $2,000 in my bank account thinking I'll make it for a couple of weeks or a month and burn through that in like 2 days.
2 days at that.
Ended up at Miyagi's on a Friday night, which I'm sure you remember.
Yeah.
And I think I spent $200, and I was like, wow, I'm broke, right?
Yeah.
So, which subsequently led me to getting a job my first year in law school, which everybody advises against. Is if you get a job, you're going to fail. And I said, well, if I don't get a job, I'm going to fail because I'm not going to be able to eat, I'm not going to be able to support myself. And my father had given me a place to live, but really no more support than that. Picked up a job doing security because that was really the only skill I had, which was I was large like you. Right? So we were both about 270. So one of the local bars, clubs gave me a job doing security, which subsequently then opened my eyes to another whole world and a Rolodex that has enabled me to evolve and navigate business in Los Angeles to a more not necessarily successful, but definitely a broader range of people than I would have been able to had I not been a security person at a nightclub.
That's true. And so now you're in law school, going through law school, trying to make ends meet by being a security at night and whatnot. I can't imagine how you were able to be a security till 4 in the morning and be able to go to class and kind of manage that. And then saying, okay, you know what? I'm pretty much done here with law school. I got to take the bar. What career am I going to go into? What was that thought process like? And how did you end up saying, okay, this is the type of law I'm going to do?
Again, I'd love to tell you this really strategic, well thought out, Machiavellian chess strategy, but there wasn't. It was kind of, well, now I'm done and I've got to figure out how to make money. Came out, actually continued to do security and some executive protection, and then got tired of the travel and started promoting nightclubs, and that's when we met.
That's right.
So then ran the promotions game for a couple of years, and then had one of the guys who I used to do security with and for purchased another bar, and that bar he got into a escrow dispute with the owner, and all his money was tied up in escrow, so he brought me on as a lawyer, which I wasn't a lawyer, right? He's a lawyer to try to resolve this dispute, and it worked out well for us. So instead of getting paid, I got 5% of that.
Wow.
That's how I got started.
And so that's how you got started. And so
hustle code.
Yeah, exactly. That was the hustle code. So Charlie and I was able to meet. He knows all the family. Like I said, back in those days, Charlie was the reason why we were able to get into a lot of these nightclubs. We had a great time, phenomenal time.
We had a lot of fun.
Yeah, we had a lot of fun. It's all kind of a blur now, but a good blur.
It's a happy
blur, right? So now we are, it brings us up to speed exactly where we're at today, right? 2019, we make a couple strategic, I guess you could say, business moves that kind of bring up other opportunities. You're doing some of your clients in terms of, on the lawyer side, are well-known celebrities, and I'm sure with that network, now you're opening up your tentacles to all these other different relationships with people. Oh, hey, I'm connected to so-and-so. And so all these opportunities start unveiling itself, right? So what was after representing and doing the law thing for a couple of these clients, what was the opportunity that presented itself and say, hey, well, I'm going to open up this restaurant. Charlie, you want to come in on this? Or, how did that present itself at that point?
Well, that's the interesting thing about Los Angeles. Los Angeles is a city founded 100 years ago by dreamers who needed a place to make movies, right? And to this day, Los Angeles is still a city that supports dreamers more than any other city in the world, right? So, the thing I tell people about Los Angeles is there's no idea that's too outrageous. There's no concept that's too far out. There's nothing can be thought of in LA that people won't support, right? People will always support you in this city. So truly from where I always sit, the greatest entrepreneurial city in the world. Kind of exactly what you just said, just you build that network of people and you get a text from someone saying, yo, what do you think about this? And you're like, yeah, I think that could work. Maybe I can tie you in with this guy or this lady or this person. And you start seeing, you hear every great business starts with an idea. So there's an acorn, and that acorn grows in an oak tree. But that acorn has to be planted and kept and watered and pruned and protected and guarded. So you see all of these opportunities and all of these acorns. And sometimes you pick an acorn that grows into a 100-foot oak, and sometimes you pick an acorn that never sees the light of day, right? And I think the answer to all of that is you just have to, it's kind of like, the baseball analogy, I just have to bat 501, right? Or I just have to, more acorns grow into oak trees than fail to come above the earth. And then I think as you get older, and something I've been reflecting on a lot the last couple of years is, as you get older, you get a little more reluctant to have small trees, right? When you're a young guy, when we were 25 or 30, you'd say, well, a base hit is okay, right? I'll expend a certain amount of energy on a base hit. I'll expend a certain amount of energy to grow a 2, 3, 5, 10-foot tree. But then as you grow, you start realizing that, and we've all heard this analogy, that time truly is finite. Right? Truly is finite, and you start realizing you don't have all the time in the world anymore. So you sit there and you say, if I'm going to plant this acorn, it can't be a 3 or 5 or 7-foot tree anymore, and it can't be a tree that's always being assailed by the elements or by people walking past or by other trees or by weeds. It's got to be a tree that has a degree of self-sufficiency. Right? It's got to be a tree that I can plant and I can tend and I can expend energy and give energy, but it has to start growing very quickly because my time is so finite.
Absolutely, absolutely. I think, and I don't want to get away from this point, you spoke about the big R word, and I could tell because of us being here, the R word I mean is relationships, right? And how instrumental building relationships are in business, okay? I harp on that a lot, mainly because, as you know, a lot of opportunities present themselves by building these great, fruitful relationships. But if, in fact, some people are introverted, it's hard for them to come out of their shell and say, hey, Charlie owns the bar, can I go introduce myself to see if there's an opportunity there, right? So, can you share with us how important it is to build these type of relationships that you've built with a lot of successful people, and which you can leverage those relationships with other opportunities?
Sure, yeah. I mean, the simplistic answer to that, which is, voiced very frequently and stated in everything from rap songs to self-help guru books, right? Which is your network is your network, right? So we've all heard that many times, and it's not only is it very true, it's very simplistic, but it's one of those quotes that has beauty and intelligence in its simplicity, right? Truly, if you think about it, what could be more true, right? So I think you could surmise my much more verbose, drawn-out answer by that quote, but I think you see it in every single aspect of every part of business every single day. When someone comes to me and says, hey, are you a family lawyer? And I say, no, but I've got the greatest family lawyer in the city. Are you an estate lawyer? No, but I have the greatest estate lawyer. Do you do wholesale merchandise or clothing? No, but my man does.
Yeah.
This is how LA works, as you know. LA is all your cell phone. Your cell phone is so powerful in the city, especially if you have a good reputation in the city and people know. Think about how many times you've been with someone and you've seen them look at their phone and go, right?
Yes.
Right? Or think about you've been with someone, you see them look at their phone and go, like, oh, cool.
Yeah,
cool. Like I made a call to someone yesterday, and someone had a very good long history of business with, particularly real estate business.
Okay.
And just the way he picked up the phone led me to believe that I had done nothing in the past except treat him very well, right? So he picks up the phone and he says, to what do I owe this on?
Yeah.
What do you need? I'm so excited you called.
Wow.
Right? Now the opposite of that would be, hey.
Yeah, hey. What? Yeah.
Right now, there's certain people in the city that get a lot more heads than they do to what do I owe this on.
Yeah.
So I think it's incumbent on you and necessary as a business person, or more importantly as a human, to be the type of person that gets more to what do I owe this on. Right? So yeah, I think your phone is important. It means a lot. I have 2 of them. I try to put one down most of the time. And again, that's another thing to track back to what we were talking about 10 minutes ago. I used to answer both of them all the time.
Okay.
Now I answer them when there's good reasons, right? Yeah. So you start getting more selective again about those acorns.
And which I'm, again, thankful for, because I know a man of your stature in business, time becomes a commodity. It's a very, very, very precious commodity.
Yeah,
so
of course.
it's an honor to actually sit here with you.
Yeah. We go
way back. So now we're ironically here at Stout Burgers, right? We get into the restaurant business, okay? Very, very capital intensive business, right? You have, again, appliances, machines, fryers, and all these different type of things to actually build out the actual restaurant, aside from the actual lease to keep these lights on, right? Why restaurants? And the only reason why I ask that is this. When you're dealing, as you know, when you're dealing with food, it's perishable, right?
Sure.
So you have a shelf life to actually sell this product,
Sure.
and you know that window of time. So in my mind, it feels like you're almost always racing to get this thing in and get it out, right? So you know that, not only that, aside from the health codes that need to be up to speed, you know, certain conditions, right? So outside looking in, I said, man, that's a lot of variables in a business for it to thrive on a day-to-day basis, right? Yeah. And then with, you know, so many things changing with, you know, again, with just brick and mortar places, why restaurants, right? And, you know, where do you see the restaurant business going and expanding and things of that nature?
So yeah, man, I think that's a great question, and you actually you said something right before this that is very intuitive, and it actually applies to more than what you even think it does. So you said shelf life as in perishables, food, right? But you realize that shelf life in restaurants extends to much more than just the food. There's actually a shelf life to the restaurant, right? Okay. There's a shelf life to the employees. There's a shelf life to every aspect of the restaurant, because it's not just that, you know, how long will that piece of meat last? It's how long will the restaurant concept last? Restaurant concepts evolve, right? So this restaurant we're sitting in right now is a Burgers and Beer concept, which we've enjoyed a huge amount of success for the last 9 years. But the entire business is evolving. So we're a full service, casual restaurant. Everything now is going to fast casual because minimum wage is getting so high. We're a very process intensive gourmet product. Everybody's going to a much less intensive product, less gourmet. So we're seeing the entire market shift, and we've got to be cognizant of that. So we've got to evaluate and value and really keep an eye on every single aspect of this business on not a daily basis, but on a monthly basis, because otherwise you end up like a lot of restaurants you see where you go, hey, that restaurant used to be so successful and so packed, and you see it 5 years later they're going out of business, and everybody goes, how did that happen? And you think, oh, it just went out of business overnight, but it didn't. It was accumulation of lots of small mistakes, or the inability to evolve, the inability to ascertain risk. So the inability to say, can our business model facilitate minimum wage increasing and thus our need to increase our menu prices. Certain products you can't charge 25 bucks for, right? Like I can't charge 25 bucks for a hot dog. Yeah. So it doesn't really matter how cognizant I am of pricing if a lot of food in the restaurant.
Oh, that's a good thing. That means a big party's on the way, right?
Exactly. So it doesn't matter how cognizant I am of what's going on in the restaurant business. If my product isn't such that can absorb a significant price increase, I just get priced out or priced under or unable to be flexible enough to cope with this evolving market. And as you mentioned, everything's evolving. Minimum wage is going up, cost of goods is going up, retail is being battered by Amazon and by deliveries, and we're being battered by deliveries. Yeah. People open up delivery-centric restaurants, and these delivery-centric restaurants are 25 blocks off of the main drag, so they're paying 50% of the rent. They have half of the labor because they're all back of the house. They don't cost $600,000 to build out, they cost $200,000 to build out. So these things just they're far more capable of absorbing change than we are. Or not necessarily like we do a very good job of it, but they're far more capable of avoiding change than some of these restaurants you see that fail.
So let me ask you this, you mentioned Amazon, right? And Bezos pretty much disrupting pretty much a lot of different industries, especially restaurants. He recently opened up his Amazon store in New York, and I think there's one in Seattle, right? So you could just walk in, you download the app, walk in, grab your stuff, and leave, right?
Yeah.
But I'm kind of old school, and I think we're both kind of old school in the sense of enjoying the experience of being able to dress up. You go and you walk in, they seat you, you get to drink, you know what I mean? They go into that whole experience. How do you feel knowing that this is where, you know, a guy like Bezos could say, well, you know, the host and all these other people, they're pretty much going to be obsolete in a minute. Sure. You could just literally walk in, order some stuff, and just walk out, right? So how do you, the big question is, since tech is disrupting all these different industries, right? How do you think it's gonna disrupt the food industry now, you know?
Well, I think, and you mentioned something 10 seconds ago, you said an experience, right? So 3, 4, 5 years ago, everybody saw this coming. So everybody said this has to be experiential. That was a key word for every broker, every restaurant guy, every banker, everybody that said, hey, restaurants, you got to start looking at what's going on, create an experience. The truth is now an experience isn't enough anymore, right? So an experience was enough when that cost was 15%, 20%, maybe even 25% more. I would still say, you know what, I want to come in and I want to hang out, I want to see some people, and I'm okay spending a little more. The problem now is with deliveries and some of the processes that you just mentioned, they can start undercutting our brick and mortar full service costs by 30, 40, 50%. That experience is no longer enough.
Yeah.
It's at 50%, I'll Netflix and chill, right? I'll sit at myself with Netflix, order the food, not have to get dressed, not pay a valet, and be cool. So now it's actually evolved, what I like to say is it's evolved to the point where giving you an experience is not enough. I need to now give you a lifestyle. So I need to say, you're a vegetarian, you're a vegan, right? So I want you to come into my vegan restaurant, and I want you in my vegan restaurant to buy into, to partake, to experience, to want to be involved, to give of yourself to my lifestyle, and I in turn will provide you with, give you the company of, allow you to experience, put you in contact with data and people and everything that you want as part of your vegan, vegetarian lifestyle. The experience is no longer enough. You walking in and going, cool vegetarian spot.
I like the music, the ambiance.
That's not enough. You need to walk in and feel community, feel self, feel worth, feel that you have the same values, morals, and ethics as the people in that community, as in your lifestyles are aligned. And if you're not in a place where your lifestyles are aligned, I think you're going to have a lot of trouble as a brick and mortar restaurant. So certainly not a prophet, and certainly no crystal ball, but I think you're going to have to see these concepts evolve in and you're seeing these rewards networks, and you're seeing private membership clubs, and you're starting to see these things where it truly is a lifestyle. Come be a part of my lifestyle and my place. Not just experience, because experience, you come in, you experience it, you go home. I need you at home thinking about what we're doing next month.
There has to be some type of incentive that they're actually creating, because we're starting to see that even in retail with clothing as well, right? That, you know, how do you separate yourself from Supreme and Louis and these guys? And so you got to be able to create this exclusive kind of community to make people feel like, oh, I need to be there, right? What do you think about, let's go back to tech. You got AI, you got AR, you got the VR tech. What do you think implementing some of those tech advancements within the culture of a restaurant could kind of create that exclusive kind of experience that people could come to and check out?
So I don't know that it necessarily creates the lifestyle for you, but what I think it does is it enables you to implement processes that facilitate the creation of that lifestyle. So I don't necessarily think that AI creates, but what AI does is AI allows you to come in, me to download you, and then take you and the other 100 vegetarians and say, what do these 100 vegetarians really care about? And then I say, well, they care about environment, they care about animal rights, they care about global warming, i.e. environment, they care about health, they care about teaching the younger generation that, all sentient life forms deserve a certain level of respect. So what do you care about? What are you vested and invested in? And what is your lifestyle that I can now take this big pool of data and delineate enough from that big pool of data to give myself a fighting chance as the restaurants continue to evolve. So I think what you're going to see and what we're already seeing is these processes allowing us to do a deep dive into your brain and not only understand what you want, but even to a certain extent start telling you.
Anticipate, exactly.
Even telling you.
That's where I see the tech one too. Aside from food, what other type of, matter of fact, before we leave that, if a kid or even an adult say, hey, I'm gonna jump away from my corporate job and I wanna start a restaurant, what's some advice for them? What are the, Charlie's not, you don't want to hear about our conversation earlier, but I mean, in terms of the barrier of entry, obviously, you got guys that just, they got the cart or the food truck or these food, kitchens, so to speak. Well, what's the steps that they can actually take to say, hey, I want to get into that game?
Yeah. I mean, I would have a couple pieces of advice. The first and foremost would be don't. Right? Don't do it. The second piece of advice, if you're truly a glutton for punishment and you really want this, there's a really good TV show, and I cite it all the time. It was called The Men Who Built America, and it was based on these industrial titans, everybody from Carnegie to Ford to Vanderbilt to Morgan Chase. These individuals that not only these individuals that built massive fortunes. Because there were a lot of people that built massive fortunes, but they did so by seeing 3, 5, 10 years in the future and anticipating where the world was going. So if someone comes to me now, which they do often as a consultant and a lawyer, and say, I'm opening a restaurant, usually what I'll do is, I'll say, tell me your idea. And when they tell me their idea, I just said someone, I'll give you a 30-second example. They came to me and they said, I want to open a poke restaurant. Yeah. And I said, all right, cool. I said, sit down, let's talk about it. And I said, tell me about it. They said, it's going to be amazing. It's this, it's ahi tuna, it's yellowtail, it's big eye, it's, and they start walking through them. And I said, okay. And at the end of it, I said, and how do you anticipate funding this? And well, I've got a bunch of money, I'm going to put my own money in, blah, blah, blah. I said, okay, great. I said, look, do me a favor, go home, I'm going to send you an email and I want you to check some stuff out. Essentially what I did was I sent them an email showing that 3 of the 5 main ingredients that they 100% have to implement into their poke restaurant are either endangered fish or fish that are on a risk level that's considerable. So I said, so you are walking into a business that is identified. It's the singular largest component of that business is endangered. So think about it. And of course, he subsequently did not do the business. So I think if someone is hell-bent on doing a restaurant, look, there's a lot of plus sides to having a restaurant. There's nothing better than bringing your boys and your girls, your wife, your family, your friends, and gathering at your own restaurant. What could be better than that? Right? But just understand that 99.9% of the time you're not going to get rich. You're going to buy yourself a job, and you're going to buy yourself a very stressful job. So if you are understanding, appreciative, and accepting of that, then buy yourself a job and play restaurateur.
Yeah. What's the next steps for Charlie? What are other business industries that you're actually looking into?
Sure.
You want to reveal to that, to our listeners, to our viewers?
Anything I can do to help.
Yeah.
So we're really evolving and growing the law firm. We're doing it because there's a lot of very disenchanted lawyers out there. There's a lot of lawyers who can't pay their bills. There's a lot of lawyers who are not happy. They're in a profession that they thought would guarantee them a modicum of success. a glimpse of stability when they're not seeing it. So what we're saying is we're saying, hey, come to our panel discussions with Forbes, come to our forums and our conventions, listen to our podcasts and our Loyola Law podcasts or our Future of Law podcasts that we do currently, and really try to derive from that some information that will help you make some informed decisions. So we're really going all in the law, because I think, you know, if you look at it, law cannot be separated from anything. Like it permeates every aspect of business, every single aspect. You know, I talk to people about autonomous vehicles, and they say, you know, talk to us about law and autonomous vehicles. Well, if autonomous vehicles come out and they prevent 98% of auto accidents, right? What do you think happens to the personal injury lawyers who are living on auto accidents? Now take it a step further. Autonomous vehicles come out and they prevent auto accidents, and personal injury lawyers go out of business. What happens to the insurance brokers and insurance carriers who rely 40% of their business in car insurance? And then take it another step. What happens to the personal injury lawyers, physical therapists, doctors, acupuncturists, chiropractors, all of these people? So not to say, again, that they'll be out of work, but they have to be understanding and appreciative of the fact that there's going to be major changes going on. Another good example I tell people is, what is the most prime real estate on every corner in every city?
McDonald's.
Alright? What else?
Every corner in every city. What do you think, Forrest? Chime in, Forrest. Liquor store?
Okay, there's a lot of those. I don't think they're going anywhere, but gas stations, right? Gas stations are in the prime real estate in every corner in every city. Think about it. How often do you see 4 gas stations across from each other?
Right?
So now think about this. Electric vehicles are only going to get bigger and more prevalent, right? Now think about what you see when you pull up to a gas station. First thing you see is gas, right? That's obsolete real quick, right? Now think about the other half of that gas station. Another half of that gas station is auto repair. Well, when you look at these electric vehicles, they just don't break down, right? So now you've got corners in every single city, the most important corners in every single city, going to have huge chunks of vacant land, right? So what's going to fill that, right? And then even another one, parking lots. Parking lots were this massive source of revenue for real estate people for as long as anyone can remember, because everybody had to park, right? You walk into a city meeting and you say, hey, I want to build a nightclub, I want to build a restaurant, I want to build this. First question out of their mouth, how are you going to park all those people? That's all becoming a moot point now, because everybody Ubers, and more importantly, what's going to happen soon is there's going to be fleets of autonomous vehicles, electric autonomous vehicles, that are just going to drive around, dropping people off. So what are you going to need parking for? So I think, again, it goes back to, you have to be cognizant of where the world's going. As a result, we see the law firm evolving and taking a different shape. We're in a couple of really interesting tech plays right now, one in the human resource space, which I think is going to only get bigger and more important as we go forward with all of the lawsuits and employee-employer actions. We have another tech program called Veritil, which is a regulated industry audit system. So it's a verification system that plugs in all point-of-sale systems at cannabis dispensaries and real-time pings every single sale to the city attorney, city manager, police department. So it's truly an audit system for the future. So those are two of the tech plays we're in. Always looking at more, always looking at other opportunities, looking at starting a small fund for tech-specific projects. And I think we'll have that up and running probably Q3 of this year.
Charlie, the VC.
A little bit.
Yeah.
A little bit.
I want to go back before we slip this point. You mentioned helping out attorneys, right? And for so long, traditional route of I don't know if Charlie knows, but I actually went on to med school. Okay, and that's a side. But yeah. So growing up, again, you have these goals and whatnot to become this doctor, this lawyer, this engineer, right? And the problem, and again, in my mind, in an entrepreneur type society, is when you only have one skill set, and that skill set is in danger. You have, again, these lawyers that say, man, I can't even pay my bills based off of this skill set that I went to school for 39 years, and it's terrifying, right? So it's like, I had a buddy, I mean, he's still attorney now, he kind of shifted and found his niche in law. And he was like, wow, man, I'm kind of useless. I said, what do you mean you're an attorney? He said he has a corner office, he did everything. I did everything right. I'm going for a partner, I'm doing all this. He goes, no, I'm here 7 days a week. Yeah. I'm getting paid $200, whatever you want to call it. I don't have a life. Yeah. And he goes, why? Outside, he was in the backseat just going off on himself. Like, I'm useless. I can't fix a car. I can't do. So it went to my point of when we created a society where you focus on one specific skill set, and now all of a sudden you have the internet in which anyone could just pretty much go and learn anything, right? Now the entrepreneur-centric kind of society we live in is great because a person like yourself and myself kind of know a little bit about a lot of different things, right? And that's the average entrepreneur, right? Kind of good at a lot of different things and can pivot. But unfortunately, someone like an attorney is like, oh, I went to school for this, and this is the only thing I know. You know what I mean? So I know you're starting to see that with a lot of attorneys. Was that your motivation to create something like that for them and kind of say, hey, may want to look into these other different avenues and kind of get these revenue streams going?
Well, you think about just the mechanism behind the practice of law. You come out, you're a college kid. You spend between college and law school, $250,000, $300,000, right? Now you come out, and now the last decade, there's no jobs or no jobs that are worthy of your time, or forget worthy. Let's not even give yourself this esteemed value. No jobs that will allow you to pay your debts, right? So you're automatically coming out, you're taking work that you may or may not be capable of doing to pay bills that you have to pay. So it's one of these situations where you've got a lot of young lawyers doing work that they're simply not capable of doing. And that is made increasingly worse by these massive amounts of student debt in the tune of trillions of dollars that is over people's heads and is not forgiven, and it is it's brutal. I mean, it's a gun at people's heads. So we saw exactly what you just referenced and realized this is a pool of really intelligent people that for the most part want to work and want to be successful and want to create something larger in their life, and are sitting with a skill set that in large part could be obsolete or could be obsolete in the future. But the truth is, it's not limited to just lawyers. This is very broad. It's a problem that has a lot of breadth, and it's a problem that a lot of professionals are witnessing and understanding and not really sure what to do with it. So this future of law concept, this idea of Loyola, the school that I went to, that I'm on the board of, they did something that was very interesting a while ago, and it was launched an executive education program. And this executive education program provides executives with just enough understanding to be to comprehend what it is they're getting themselves into. It's not going to replace a lawyer, it's not going to make a lawyer obsolete, but it's going to allow you to sit and have a more meaningful conversation with me as your lawyer. So it's going to allow you to be more informed, more cognizant, more able to pivot, more able to offer me suggestions, because a lot of people like to think of lawyers as these kind of gurus of understanding. We're really not. I mean, if you think about what we learn in law school, what we learn is we learn the ability, I feel, to look at problems on a 360-degree angle. We don't learn, it's not like going to med school where I can sit and identify every part of your body or every part of your limbic system or your brain or your heart. We kind of learn a thought process that in theory will behoove us as we move forward in life. But again, if Google or one of these new research systems can research 2.6 million pages in the same amount of time it takes me to research one, now think about where that, it doesn't depict a very cheery picture for my future. So I think again, it's one of these things where we saw a need, we saw a vacancy, we saw a group of people that were disillusioned and disenchanted, and a need, and thought, okay, let's come and say, hey lawyers, you do have a unique skill set. There is huge alternatives and huge opportunities. Just pivot, do what you were trained to do, really. Do the 360-degree angle and move.
Well, I mean, I think we kind of touched on pretty much your journey thus far, Charlie. And again, it's been an honor to come here to Stout and really go through your journey and kind of ask you these questions. And I'm glad you was able to harp on the tech stuff.
Sure.
Because that's a society that we actually live in. I actually at the beginning specific codes, specific hustle codes, right? That you were able to kind of utilize. Going from a child to Florida State all the way here to LA, and all the different personalities that you have met along the way, including my own family, right? Yeah. So what were the different hustle codes that you could share with the listeners and the viewers that you kind of practice to this day, that they can say, you know what, I learned that from Charlie and I'm going to utilize that as well?
So yeah, man, look, I identified a couple years ago in a piece of writing that I did, and what I said in it was 4 pillars of entrepreneurship. So 4 hustle codes.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
So my 4 pillars of entrepreneurship were very, very simplistic. 1, build your brand, tell your story. And my thought process behind that was, if I don't tell my story, someone else is going to tell it, and they're never going to tell it well, right? So build your brand, put forth what you want people to see, and tell your story. My second one was philanthropy. You gotta give back. I've seen my world open up so dramatically since I started being very, very conscious of the fact that there's a lot of people out there that need a lot of help. Mm-hmm. So for me, there's an adoption charity I'm very involved with, there's a homeless charity, there's a mental health charity. Now we're starting to really look at veterans charities, which to me is something that the more I look at, the more I feel that it's truly such a necessity to take care of veterans. And it's something that, if you think about, there was a Roman quote, and I forget, it may have been Aurelius, but the quote was essentially, it's the single most important thing for society that can send its young women and men off to war is to take care of them when they come home. And again, I absolutely mastered that quote, massacred, but you get the understanding that we can't tell people go and put your life and limb, and maybe even more importantly, your mental health on the line for us, for these liberties that we enjoy, for me and you to sit and have this open and frank conversation, for me to walk out of here and eat a burger and drink a beer and walk in a beautiful street. Like, you can't ask someone to go and protect that and not be fully prepared in whatever capacity to take care of them when they come home. So philanthropy. Very, very famous quote that I always reference and I love by Rocky Balboa. It's not how hard you can hit, it's how hard you can get hit and keep going, how much you can take and keep moving forward. Entrepreneurial endeavors is nothing more true. If you can't take a hit, just stay home. It's truly the best advice. Man, because you're gonna get beat so bad, so often, every day, in and out, and you think, man, as soon as I make it, I'll stop taking beatings. It's so not true. As soon as you make it, you take bigger beatings. You just become more resilient to those beatings. And then the 4th pillar, the 4th hustle code is, you mentioned it also, you have to be able to anticipate change. You can't sit and look. I tell people all the time, don't look at what's trending. People come to me and they go, hey man, this is trending, I'm going to build this restaurant. And I say, by the time that restaurant opens, a year from now, not only are you going to be not trending, there's going to be multiple stages of restaurant. There's origination, creation, there's replication, where a lot of people do it, and then there's saturation. Right? If you chase trends, you will always come into the saturation stage. So,
and then elimination.
Exactly. So I'm going to add that.
Yeah, right.
Can I use that?
Yeah, absolutely.
So you're going to chase trends, you're going to be in the saturation, and you're going to have huge problems, right? So I tell people all the time, 1, 3, 5, 10 years in advice in the future. And then the other greatest hustle code I could ever give anybody is read. I mean, every bit of knowledge.
Favorite book. Man, okay, give it to them. Give it to them.
My singular favorite book, probably The Count of Monte Cristo. It's the ultimate story of revenge, but tactical, practical revenge done not for spite and hatred, but done because someone was wronged and bettered themselves in every single aspect of life, so that they could come back and take care of those that took care of them and deliver retribution to the people that did them wrong. So it's just an incredible book.
Are you a Think and Grow Rich guy?
I love Think and Grow Rich. I've read it 100 times. I think if you think about that book and the fact that it was written 100 years ago, and that they're actually learning and understanding that the stuff that that book talked about 100 years ago is actually true, right? So that book talks about your brain not only being a receptive organ, so we're having this conversation where I talk too much, right? I open my mouth and you receive it, but in that book talked about your brain also transmitting all the time. So the theory there, and we all know this to be true, I could meet you and I could sit and we could have very little communication and we could leave saying I really like that guy, or we could leave going I never want to see that guy again. So we're transmitting all the time, right? I think about it in terms of a radio station. Right now there's 1 billion radio signals all around us, right? But if I haven't tuned my brain to that one specific 98.7, I don't pick up what's on 98.7. So Think and Grow Rich, an incredible book. You know, look, man, every piece of information that's ever been gleaned from the mind of man is in books. So if you aren't taking advantage of that, you're foolish. Right? You're truly foolish. Another really amazing quote I remember hearing, which I always think about, and I always try to pass on to younger entrepreneurs or older entrepreneurs or anybody, is the graveyard is the richest place in the world. And everybody says, how would the graveyard be the richest place in the world? And the reasoning behind that is that every great idea, every great book, every great novel, every invention that you never got out of your head is in the graveyard. So if you don't go and write and produce and create, the guy who always talks about that is a gentleman named Les Brown. So if you haven't heard Les Brown, go listen to him.
One of the greats.
He's just powerful. He's a powerful orator. He's one of those orators that gets you moving. You actually hear him, and I don't care that some of his best speeches were 30 years ago. It was applicable today as they were 30 years ago. So read, and then history. And I love history. I love Winston Churchill. Like me, we talked about that quote. If you're going through hell, keep going. He had a quote that I've been thinking about a lot the last couple of weeks, because I feel like the world as a whole is in this weird direction where we're all so consumed and concerned with creating mechanisms of war that are more lethal and more powerful and more destructive, and we forgot about feeding people. He has a quote that says, essentially, I have no interest in an empire that rules the waves but can't flush its own sewers. Right? And I think stuff like that is so powerful because we're so dead focused on ruling the waves, and you drive 12 miles, 14 miles from this beautiful place we're living right now, and you're in tent city LA, and you're seeing people that can't flush the sewers, right? And if I walk out here and I look in the ocean, I'll see 100-foot yacht. So how can I rule the waves and 14 miles away I can't give clean drinking water to someone? So I think, you know, as a human, it's incumbent on us to read, it's incumbent on us to absorb, to be better to each other, to understand that everybody's walk is different, that mental health is real, you know, that mental health takes the greatest minds in the world and reduces them to children, and it takes the already childish minds and reduces them even to an even lower functioning level, and we have to be appreciative and supportive and understanding of that, you know, kind of but for the grace of God. So that's, you know, that's my spiel.
Yeah. Before we end, let everybody know where they can follow you on all the social media handles.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Let everybody know where you're at.
So I'm at the Charles Lew on Instagram, Charles_Lew on Twitter, CharlesLew.com, and the Lew Firm, LEWFIRM.com.
And what type of law? Let them know what type of law that you
We do general business practices, which now is expanded and encompass everything from real estate to entrepreneurial, startup, foundational law, operational agreements, employment law. We do a lot. We really encompass, if you're starting a business or you're running a business, we handle it. Trademarks, intellectual property, we're your A to Z for entrepreneurial endeavors.
Well, hey, you heard it here. It's an honor to actually come here to meet Charlie Lew at one of his businesses here at Stout Burger. If you're ever in Santa Monica, definitely pull up on them. We got the Hustle Codes merch there. And like we always end every episode, the codes are free, but the hustle is sold separately. See you guys next week. Peace!